Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if it is your first time here, then hi, I'm Shelby. It's very nice to make your acquaintance. Oh my goodness, this is like the first time that I have filmed in probably a month and a half, and I am so sorry. The videos that we're posting through October and through November were videos that I filmed ahead of time, but it feels so weird, but like also really great to be filming again. Also, as you can tell, I am in a new background. Currently, we were staying at Grayson's parents' house, my in-laws' house, just until we get settled. If you didn't already know, I moved from California to Nashville, Tennessee, and so now we are here. Today, in this video, I am going to be talking about two YouTubers' palettes, the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette and the Laura Los Angeles Cat's Pajamas palette. So if you would like to hear my thoughts and what I think about these palettes, and if I think that they're worth your dollars, then just go ahead and keep on watching. So I'm going to preface this video by saying, if you already have preconceived notions about Laura Lee or Jaclyn, if you guys hate them with a passion — hate is a very strong word — but if you guys really dislike them and you already have your opinions on these palettes, just go ahead, do yourself a favor and click off this video. I'll catch you in the next one. But for those of you who actually want to hear an unbiased review on both of these palettes and whether or not they think that they're worth the money, then be sure to stick around. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about these palettes in the order that they were released. So first, I'm talking about the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. So I did not receive this palette on the first launch or even the second launch. I believe this launched sometime in June. So in September, I went on their website after watching a couple of reviews on the palette. I specifically watched the Jen Loves Reviews channel and her thoughts on the palette, and I really liked that review. And so I thought that I would go ahead and give this palette a whirl. So I got this in my hands around sort of the end of October because I mailed it to my parents' house in Nashville, Tennessee while we were living in San Diego. But this is the palette. The Jaclyn Hill palette retails for $38, and you get 35 new shades that Jaclyn Hill formulated with Morphe. The net weight is 56.2 grams, meaning that this palette has 1.98 ounces of product. And it says that it has a shelf life of 12 months, but as we know, I don't really look at the expiration date, to be honest, unless the palette starts smelling funky or anything weird. I use it past the expiration date. So for the packaging of this is just a white cardboard, very cheap feeling packaging. They are coming out with the new plastic maybe kind. It's like a slick white packaging to where it is easy to wipe off. This palette does get dirty, but I haven't had any issues of it really staining. I typically will just go through with a wet washcloth and just kind of wipe it off really easily, and it comes off. So I've been using this for probably 3 weeks now, and honestly, the outside of the packaging I think looks nice still. So along with the palette, you get this little card. This comes separately, and I just taped mine on the inside. I saw Raw Beauty Christy doing this, but I realized when everybody was kind of talking about this little thing, I was like, just tape it in the inside, and then you have all your shades there. So as we can see, I taped this. Underneath it, it had like, to all my loving subscribers, Jaclyn, whatever. Again, I have no thoughts about Jaclyn necessarily. I am subscribed to her channel. I don't necessarily like tutorial videos, which is mainly what she films. She's not my favorite YouTuber. She's a fine person, whatever, but I didn't buy this because I love Jaclyn. I just bought this because I thought that it was, you know, a good deal and I wanted to try it out. So on the inside, again, we do not have a mirror. We just have sort of this silvery cardboard. I will say I don't care for the packaging. I don't really like it. I think it feels cheap. I would never take this in my suitcase when flying, just because they throw those bags around in TSA so much that I just know that this would just, like, all the shades would get ruined, because again, this packaging just like isn't the nicest. It sort of reminds me of the Lorac packaging, except the Lorac again is a little bit more sturdier and it has a mirror in it. But as far as like how it would probably do in transit on a plane, I would imagine that the Lorac and this one are very similar. I have taken my Lorac palette traveling with me and opened it up and the mirror was shattered. So if that gives you any indication, I don't know if I would travel with this on a plane. On the back you have the Morphe X Jaclyn Hill, and then you have these JH little things all over it, kind of like a Louis Vuitton style thing. But now I'm going to get into these shades. So these are the shades, and I feel like on camera they don't really do the shades justice. In person, these shades are a lot more vibrant than they come off on camera, at least what I've noticed in other people's videos. These shades are very warm. So if you're into more cooler tone eye looks, I don't think that you would necessarily want this palette in your collection. I just don't think you'll get a ton of use out of it because, again, we do have a few of the cooler tone shades like this brown right over here, some of these purples and blues. But as far as the brown shades go, I would say they're pretty much all on the warm. We do have a couple neutral shades in here, but they're pretty much all on the warm side. So some of my most used shades that I have used in this, I really like this first highlighting shade. It is not as intense as the one next to it. It's just kind of good for everyday use. The next shade that I really like, I love using this one as a transition shade. These two are very, very similar. I do wish that there was almost like a matte cream shade because I love having a matte cream shade to put all over after I do my primer, just to sort of set the primer, and we don't have that in here. And I feel like for this, like I would almost bring another palette just to have that cream shade. So that's sort of disappointing, but this one is in the shade MFEO, and this does not swatch very well, as you can see. So this is the first one. This was the Enlight color that I said that I like using on my brow bone and in the inner corner. And then this one was the MFEO. It swatches really, really poorly. I will say about that MFEO shade, you have to build it up quite a bit. Both of these two sort of lighter transition shades, you really have to build up, which is annoying. Another shade that I'm really into is this Little Lady shade. I will swatch that also on my arm. And the Sissy shade, which is right next to it. Now I feel like these are very similar, but actually swatching them side by side, they are very different. So the first one is the Little Lady shade, and the next one swatched is Sissy. And I'm not sure if you guys can tell on camera, but in person, Sissy is a lot more pink toned than the Little Lady shade. Sissy, again, is this sort of has pink undertones, and this one almost has corally undertones. So they look very similar in the pan, if you guys can tell, but on the eye and swatch, they are very different. The next shade I've really been liking the shade in Butter. This is just like a darker matte. Again, that does not swatch very well. I don't know what is up with these matte shades. So that is it right there. I've also been liking this SBN shade. This is just a good foiled bronzy shade. Ooh. That one swatches really pretty. So that is what that looks like. To be honest, I haven't really played with these colors. Again, I just don't wear a color every single day on my eyes. It's just not something that I use, but I do really want to sort of use this teal underneath the eye. This shade would be really pretty for a night out. I just haven't really had a chance to play with the colors. These dark shades I really love using for liner. I've really been loving using powder for my liner, and these are all really good shades. I will say though, these darker shades, you just have to build up. You have to go over and over and over. So I actually find myself using these really dark shades more than sort of these shades as a liner color. So now I'm going to get into my opinions and what I think of these shades and how I think they blend and all that good stuff. First of all, just so you guys know, I have never used Morphe shadows before. This is my very first Morphe palette. I have used their brushes. I did not like their brushes. They came dented. Yes, they are cheap, but I think that the Sigma brushes, they're also cheap. I think they work and last a lot longer than the Morphe brushes do. I'm not a fan of the Morphe brushes. I know that there is sort of this weirdness about Morphe. I know Stephanie Nicole made a video. I know a lot of people just don't like how they sort of run everything. The shipping is really expensive. It's like $8 flat unless you spend $200, which spending $200 at Morphe will get you like 50 million brushes. And, you know, I don't need all of that. So with shipping and tax, this probably came out to around $47, $48 just for this palette. So, you know, that is a bummer. I am very used to the Sephora, the free shipping with all my points. So that is a bummer that you have to pay $8. But again, if you look at your Kylie Cosmetics or your KKW Beauty, you are also paying around $8 for shipping, which I personally think is ridiculous. Why are there even shipping fees anymore? So overall, I do like this palette. I do like it. I will say that these are not the best shades I've ever used in the world. I really do love the shade selection. I think that they are maybe not unique, but to find a palette with this layout is very unique. I will say the matte shades I am not as big of a fan of, just because you have to build and build and build and build. And for somebody like me who has a very light hand when it comes to shades and when it comes to blending, I'm just not used to working with shades that aren't pigmented. These are not the most pigmented shades ever. They are pretty. I will say some of these darker shades I really love using through the crease, whereas in like an Anastasia Beverly Hill palette, these darker shades I would use to smoke out either the lash line or the outer corner, just because they almost look a little intimidating, but you can blend it through the crease. I do think that this is a great palette for people who are beginning their eyeshadow career, people who, you know, just aren't used to using eyeshadows. I think that this is a really good palette for learning on. I do think that this palette is really great for people who want a lot of these shades but don't have the money to spend on these eyeshadows. Really like the shimmers. I will say though that the shimmers do not last a very long time on your eye. They will fade, and after a night out, you probably won't have much left on your eye. So all in all, I do think this palette is worth it. I think you can create a lot of looks with it. But again, I spend more time with this palette than I do a lot of my palettes, just because the shades aren't as pigmented as I'm used to, and so you do have to work a little bit harder to get a completed eye look with this. Next, we're going to be talking about the Laura Lee Los Angeles Cat's Pajamas palette. This palette retails for 40 buckaroos, and it comes with 10 shades, so you're paying more for about a third or less of what you would the Jaclyn Hill palette, just FYI. Each shade in this is 0.07 ounces, I believe. I think that's what that says on the back. It also says 10 times 2 grams, so I'm assuming there are 2 grams of product in one pan. I don't know. I will say the back is a little confusing. I'm not very good with the grams and the ounces and all that good stuff. So this is shipped out of Los Angeles, California. On the back we have Laura Lee Los Angeles. We have the little Instagram logo right here, the handle. We have the YouTube Laura88 Lee. It is cruelty free, and it says that this has a shelf life of 24 months, which is 2 years. So you get a year longer on the expiration date than the Morphe palette. This packaging is a very shimmery packaging. On the front we have the pink that says Laura Lee Los Angeles, her little logo. On the top we have, I don't know if you guys can see, it's this cute little cat with little paw prints, and it looks like he's chasing a thing of yarn. It is also pink. Cooper would like to be a part of this Cat's Pajamas palette review. What would you like to say about the palette? Okay, well, that's what Cooper feels about it. In the inside, we have the pink flowers and we have the nice little mirror. And again, we have the 10 shades. These pan sizes are larger than the Morphe palette. Pan sizes do appear to be larger than the Morphe pan sizes, just slightly larger. Am I wrong? I think they are bigger. So a lot of people had issues with the packaging on this palette right here. A lot of people said it just didn't make a lot of sense to them. They didn't understand the sparkles, and then it was called Cat's Pajamas, yet we have a lot of roses in the inside. People were just very confused, and my opinions on this are I don't mind the packaging at all. Personally, if people are going to say that this packaging sucks and is awful, then I don't understand why they wouldn't say that this packaging sucks. Comparing these two together, this one is very flimsy and boring in my opinion. This one is different. I've never seen anything like it. It is more substantial feeling. I would definitely travel with this guy. This is a smooth packaging, so it's not like the Anastasia Beverly Hill, the felt ones, or the naked ones that are the felt. So this is going to be really easy to clean just because you can wipe it off. Again, there is this mirror, and this mirror in here is really nice. I do wish that the flowers were maybe smaller just so we had more of the mirror room, but this mirror is really good quality and I really do like it. I don't mind the flowers. I think that the pink flowers go with the pink on the logo. And I am from the South, so when I heard the word Cat's Pajamas, I understood what that means. Nobody is actually saying that there are cats in pajamas. When you say like, oh, he's the cat's pajamas, that means like, oh, he's hot stuff, like he's all that. He, you know, it's just a saying. So when I heard Cat's Pajamas, I didn't think about cats in pajamas. I thought about like, oh, this palette is it. This palette is hot stuff. This palette is awesome. And I think that's what she was trying to get across. I think that this palette is very unique. You have to think with Anastasia Beverly Hills or Morphe or Viseart or something like that, they are catering to a different audience. They are catering to the masses. They are catering to everyone because it's sold in Sephora, it's sold in stores typically, not Morphe, but you know what I mean. These palettes are sold in stores, so you're attracting people who have never heard of the brand and who are walking in and they're saying, I want an eyeshadow palette, and they say, oh, that looks great, I'll pick those colors. But Laura made this for her subscribers, okay? Nobody is going to know who Laura Lee is if they don't watch YouTube or they aren't on Instagram. Just plain and simple. She made this for her subscribers. She made this by herself. It is not being mass produced to being sold in Sephora or anything like that. So to me, it makes sense. If I were to make a palette, I would want the palette to reflect my personality, especially if it was going to be for my subscribers. I wouldn't make a plain black palette, name it something really weird, and put shades in it that I don't use on a daily basis. A lot of people were saying that these shades were boring. I will agree to an extent, but for your first palette, for instance, Kylie Jenner came out with the bronze palette. A lot of people were saying, oh, that's boring. We've seen these bronze shades before. But what does Kylie Jenner wear on her eyes? Kylie Jenner only pretty much wears bronzy eye shades on her lids. She doesn't wear pinks and purples. She doesn't go crazy. So for her first palette, it would only make sense to have the bronze palette and have the shades that she normally would wear. I feel the same for the Laura Lee Los Angeles palette. Laura Lee does not use a ton of color, so why would she come out with a colored palette? Okay, enough of my thoughts about the packaging and justifying, you know, why I think that this is a fine palette. We are going to hop into the shades. So we have all these shades, and they do have the shade names below, which I really appreciate. I do wish that the Jaclyn Hill palette had the shade names below. I just think it's really nice, and I like knowing the names. I think it's fun. So the shades that I like the most in this palette are Okie Dokie. When I first saw people using this, I sort of looked at that shade and I was like, oh, that is so light. It is like super white. Why would I ever want that? But it's actually sort of an eggshell color. It's not super like stark white. I actually like using a fluffy brush, and I will set my primer with this, and I have been dipping into this palette when using the Jaclyn Hill palette because, like I said, there is not a matte white or cream shade that I like to use. The next shade that I really like is this Redonkulous shade. This shade is so pretty to wear, especially at nighttime. I just think it's stunning. I think it's so pretty. The next shade that I really like is this Bomb Diggity shade. This is sort of a warmer tone brown that I love using for my transition shade. So here we have Okie Dokie, Redonkulous, and that Bomb Diggity shade. I do like the Bomb Diggity shade better than the Cray Cray. Cray Cray is a little warm for me. I will use this though when I'm doing a gold look or using this Redonkulous shade for a warmer eye look. But for a transition shade, I really like using this Bomb Diggity because you can also use these cooler, sort of reddy, purpley shades. Using this with like a purple to me seems a little weird, so I again like using that Bomb Diggity shade. Another shade that I've really been using, I use Kooky on a regular basis. I like using this on the outer corner of my eye to darken it up and deepen it up. I love using this with the gold. I just think it's stunning. Honestly, I think all of the shades are really beautiful. Here's the N1 ear. Oh my gosh, this one all over the lid is stunning. So that is the N1 ear, and this is Kooky. I really like using this oddball shade. I will just take a liner pencil and smoke it out, and I really like using this a lot. And it has shimmer in it, but you can't really tell. So my final thoughts on the Cat's Pajamas palette. Do I think that it is worth the 40 bucks? Actually, I do. The shades blend so nicely. I can throw an eye look together in like 2 seconds and be out the door. They almost blend by themselves. It is just, I really like this formula, and I think it works better than the Jaclyn Hill by far. The only issues I do have, I will say, I used this in one ear all over my lid, and it did not last as long as I would have wanted. It did fade throughout the night, which was disappointing, but I haven't had an issue with any of the other shimmer shades on the lid. It was just that in one ear shade. But other than that, I really like this palette a lot. So all in all, I think that both of these palettes are definitely worth your money. If I had to pick one or the other, personally, I would go with the Laura Lee Los Angeles palette. These shades are not new. These shades have been done multiple times before, but I love this formula. I love it. I'm excited to see what else she's going to be doing. I like the layout. I like the packaging. Personally, I would spend $2 extra to get this versus all of this. I just think that this is worth it, and I know I'm going to probably get a lot of hate. Not everybody has $40 to spend. I totally get it, but I reach for this one more than I have been reaching for this one. And you get 35 shades versus 10 shades, yet I still like this one better. Alright guys, so that is going to be it for today's video. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so that I know you like videos like this. Leave below in the comments what you would like me to review, or if there's anything you're kind of wanting to see from my channel, go ahead, leave it below. If you're not already, go ahead and hit that little subscribe button down below, and if you would like to be notified every time I post a video, go ahead and hit that little bell icon. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all in my next one. Bye!
Man, I called my dad when I was 3 weeks old. I hope I'm at least half the cat dad that he didn't have to be. That's a little rat ball. She'll be a rat ball. Okay. Go do some work.